Good evening.
Love to use that. So, call the meeting to order here at 7 o'clock. I guess we need a roll call, please.
Commissioner Arata?
Present.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Present.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Present.
Commissioner Simpson, Commissioner Nafisi, absent. Commissioner Beely?
Present.
Commissioner Sao?
Present.
Chair Simpson?
I am here. Okay, so let's have the salute to the flag. Commissioner Tsao, can you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of agenda.
And is there a second?
Second that motion.
I think we can do this with a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, order approved. Are there any blue folder items?
There are no blue folder items for tonight.
Okay, that's good to hear. Then move on to the consent calendar. Is there any individual item there that someone would like to pull out and discuss separately, or can we take a vote on just accepting all three of them?
I would make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
And is there a second?
I second that.
All right. Do we need a roll call on that?
No, but just for the record, there's no e-comments
Of
for
course,
this.
no comment.
and
Yes, all right.
If there's public that would like
All
to
right, any
speak.
public comment on the consent calendar? Don't see any. Okay. So can we, let's do a roll call on it, I guess?
Sure. Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Aye.
Commissioner Beely?
Aye.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye. Okay, public participation on non-agenda items. So this is the time when anyone who is in the audience who wishes to address the commission can do so. Or they can do it online too with an e-comment. And it can be anything at all that's of concern, but not on the agenda. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? See none. We don't have any items continued from previous agendas, and now we're on to, I guess, item J1, discussion and possible action on presentation by West Basin Municipal Water District on the non-functional turf irrigation ban at commercial, industrial, and institutional properties.
Thank you. Before Daryl gets started here with his presentation, I just wanted to introduce this item. I actually saw it recently at IWG meeting, a regional meeting I go to, and Daryl presented some new legislation coming the way that's going to impact the way that we, or what we can do about turf irrigation in the city spaces. We wanted to put this item together with a kind of a companion item, which is J2, in the event that there are topics brought up tonight that you'd like to consider as part of our continuing sustainability options. So if you have recommendations, for instance, for that, you want to hold those off until we get to J2, and this item will be about his presentation specifically. Okay. Yep, thank you.
Thanks, and good evening, commissioners. Thanks for allowing me to take a brief moment of your time to provide an update on this policy that is coming down the train tracks. Non-functional turf irrigation ban at commercial, industrial, institutional properties. You're probably very familiar with West Basin Municipal Water District. Next, Jesse or Lauren.
I'm sorry.
I have it up.
You do, I can't get it to Zoom, so let's see.
So you're probably familiar that West Basin Municipal Water District is your local government wholesaler of drinking water. We work with the regional water wholesaler, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, who owns and operates the Colorado River Aqueduct, providing Colorado River, Northern California, to supply our thirsty needs of all Southern Californians down here, 19 million people. Next. West Basin Municipal Water District is governed by 5 elected public officials, just like your city council. You're probably very familiar with our current board president, Desi Alvarez, who represents all the residents and businesses here in Redondo Beach. Next. He also serves as the voice for the other beach cities, including Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, parts of Lomita, and parts of Torrance. You can see that the other 4 directors represent other divisions within the West Basin's 185 square service area and approximately 1 million people. It is their responsibility to provide the policy and direction for staff to provide that wise water management for the service area. Next. Even though we are busy ensuring that the South Bay cities has the drinking water allocation that all our residents and businesses need, our direct customers are these 9 customers. 5 municipalities, 1 county works district, and then 3 public utilities that are investor-owned. And of course, you're familiar with California Water Service, who you pay your water bill to. Altogether, these entities that provide water to their customers directly are labeled by the State of California Water Resources Control Board as urban retail water suppliers. And it is these entities that are going to be held accountable to this new regulation coming down the trade tracks. So it's not residences, it's not businesses, it is these urban retail water suppliers are going to have to abide by the state's new regulations that are currently being reviewed right now. Probably by the end of summer, we'll have a better idea of what it actually means, what those implement criteria will be. But for now, I just wanted to give you a high-level update that this is coming, okay? Thank you, Jesse. Next. So what is this policy? Assembly Bill 1572 prohibits the irrigation of non-functional turf, basically decorative grass lawns, with drinking water at commercial, industrial, institutional, and homeowner association properties. So the exceptions are, however, the areas using recycled water, they're sweet, they're good, no need. It's okay, they don't have to follow the regulations. Any lawn that is being used for recreational or gathering purposes is exempt, of course. Cemeteries are fine, and the state realizes the benefit of ensuring that our tree canopy remains intact to prevent solar radiation. So that is what the regulation is about. Next. So I think that we all know where there are some areas of decorative turf. Here in Redondo Beach, there isn't an overabundance of it, that's for sure. But you may think in your mind here and there within your neighborhoods where there is some decorative turf that really is not used other than looking beautifully green. It's those areas that are going to be targeted by the state because they figure all of us residents have been beaten over the head for the past many years because of the drought to conserve water. Well, it's time that commercial and industrial and institutional properties do their part too and are held accountable to making water conservation a California way of life. Next. So within the West Basin service area, all these orange areas show all the commercial and institutional and industrial properties. So you can see by our 9 customers, our retailers, that industrial properties or commercial properties are what we call CII properties can make up a really large percentage. Depending on the retailer service area, it can range anywhere from 15 to 75% of their properties. But you can see where the Redondo Beach area is, the city, pretty small properties that are going to be affected by this regulation. Next. Whew, this is a big slide. But to sum it all up, the state of California is taking a look at calculating all these measurements, which will be combined into these water efficiency standards for these urban retail water suppliers. And you can see that the CII properties will be a part of that. Again, we don't know how the regulation is going to fall out until the end of the summer of how these retailers are going to be holding themselves accountable to these regulations. It may be as simple as providing their customers with education so they reduce their water use. show them the benefits of switching to climate resilient landscaping, which the city of Redondo Beach is already ahead of the game, right? Or it may be encouraging neighborhood watches to tattletale. Or in the worst case scenario, yeah, maybe they might be increasing water rates for those properties to make sure that they're held accountable to this regulation. We'll have to wait and see. And the state understands that depending on where these retailers are within our state, their hydrology of that area may be different, the socioeconomics may be different, the water supply within that area, whether it's groundwater or surface runoff, may be different. So the state is giving each retailer some flexibility in meeting these water efficiency criteria. So that's nice. But how that plays out locally here, we will wait and see come the end of summer. Next. So this is the big one. This shows that the compliance is currently projected to start in January 2027 for public properties. For commercial properties, we're looking at 2028. So you can see that we still have a good space to prepare for this. 29 is homeowner association and similar common areas. And then in 2031, if funding is available, then public properties and priority communities will be held accountable. We do know that in this regulation that self-certification for all these properties is a part of this criteria. Again, we don't know quite what that is. But again, it's going to be the state that's going to enforce this all ultimately. Next. So how do we best prepare for this upcoming regulation? Next. The CII properties can prepare, much like you already have done. But for converting turf, the first thing would be to prioritize locations, because depending on the commercial property or the public entity, they may have areas that may be more effective and easy to tackle versus other locations. Because these properties are maybe in a public venue, very familiar to the residents or businesses around it, there may be some education involved to get the community to understand why a beautiful turf area is going to be converted to a more climate resilient landscape. As you know, being a member of the commission, there may be some navigation through the politics of it all, and then identifying the resources, whether it's budget needs, staffing needs, consultant needs, what have you. And then peer-to-peer mentoring is really beneficial, because why not learn from the businesses or public entities that have already done it and understand the challenges ahead and the challenges of maintaining such a landscape that is climate resilient. Next. West Basin, we do have a website that many of you may be familiar with, but we have lots of resources. Our webpage that highlights ocean-friendly gardens has 18 different locations all around the South Bay of these decorative turf properties that have been converted to ocean-friendly California native landscaping. And they can actually talk to some of the facilities staff people to understand what it took to change out that landscape and how those landscapes are doing and some of the challenges or successes of maintaining such a climate resilient landscape. Next. Metropolitan Water District has lots of classes online and in person that if this is a new foray for city staff working with future consultants, they can get their feet wet to understand some of the issues with climate resilient landscaping. Next. Our West Basin webinars have unfortunately came to an end last week, but we are in the planning stages for more virtual webinars where they can actually talk to a staff person about switching out our decorative turf and navigate through the Metropolitan Water District Turf Rebate Program. And then if staff people or residents can't attend one of these webinars, we have lots of recordings of previous sessions online too. Next. And then why not put money back in your pocket if it's available? And the city's Redondo Beach is doing a good job taking advantage of that. So for commercial grass replacement rebates program, $3 per square foot. It's a wonderful opportunity. Next. And then for the public agency, there's $1 extra for up to 200,000 square feet. So wonderful opportunity, so take advantage of it. Next. We have lots of resources, both with our partners and West Basin. So there's lots of support available. Next. And thank you to the city of Redondo Beach for being part of our program partners that are reducing our water use over the years. And this past year has been the lowest use of water ever in West Basin Municipal Water District history. So kudos to all of us for making a difference. Next. And then, of course, the other thing that entities could do, if they have the financial investment to do it and the grants are available, is to become a part of our water recycling effort. Up to this point, 250 billion gallons of water has been produced that has been recycled. The city of Redondo Beach has been a part of that with the Dominguez Hills Park, with Redondo Union High School, even around, this property. So wonderful. Next.
Purple pipe.
Yeah, purple pipe, wonderful. And again, we're trying to make this upcoming regulation as painless as possible for our partners, for our retailers, and therefore have less impact on all of you ultimately too, who may be business owners or the staff for institutional or industrial properties. Classes available, tours of our water recycling facility, lots of free programs in how to switch out, thirsty landscapes for more climate resilient plant palettes. We look forward to being a partner and helping make water conservation a California way of life, that's for sure. And with that, that ends my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this upcoming regulation.
Questions, comments?
Thank you very much. That was really informative. Enjoyed that. You said City of Los Angeles is also one of your clients. Are they, or one of your retail partners?
Yes, so we work with them because many of the unincorporated areas of Los Angeles, both the county and the city, fall within some sections of our service area.
Got it. Because I was curious because their own Department of Water and Power has their own.
Yeah, they're their own member and we agency with Metropolitan Water District.
Got it. And I have another question. I know a lot of folks, maybe in the commercial side, if they've got very large, square footage of turf, there is that cooling effect. And then what is the most ideal, if you're going to replace your turf, what is the next best material or option to go with to really keep that cooling effect and prevent sort of that additional heat element? I can't recall the term. It's escaping me.
Yeah, the solar radiation.
Solar radiation.
Yeah.
I've heard another one as well.
I think it really depends on, you're talking about residents?
Or just in general, right? Like turf in general, it has
Yeah.
a cooling effect. If you're asking someone to now replace it, what is the next best option to go with that minimizes any sort of additional heat?
Yeah. Again, if it depends on the property owner and what their own aesthetic is. Basically, for any cooling, there are lots of plants, whether it's drought tolerant or whether it's California native or Mediterranean inclined. There are low growing plants or even ground covers that resemble grass in height, but that are really resilient and really good for even walking on. For example, I know that some people like to walk their dogs on the grass. In our neighborhood, there's lots of California native ground covers that people have switched out instead, and they're really durable.
Okay, great.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
What will golf courses do?
For this
For
particular
this
regulation
particular,
that's
yeah.
coming down the line?
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm sure that the state will be considering them as recreational, right?
Yeah.
So for the golf courses, most of the golf courses within the South Bay cities are already on our recycled water, which is wonderful. And then we're taking the first drop of recycled water at the Palos Verdes Golf Course. So that pipeline's almost done. Others, for the driving range, use artificial turf like
Right.
Topgolf and elsewhere.
Right. I believe I heard something with the city of Los Angeles where they used the purple pipe. There was quite a few lawsuits, especially within the Playa del Rey area. Is that of any concern?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the lawsuit itself.
I would have to look into it, but
What I can do is I can talk to our water policy team and I can get back to you.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
For those of us unfamiliar, what is the purple pipe?
Purple pipe is for the reclaimed water.
Water, reclaimed water. Mhm.
Yeah, there's lots of pipes under the ground and they're all labeled differently, yellow or red,
So the
corrosive
recycled is
versus
purple? Is that
flammable.
what we're saying?
Yeah, or not
Yes,
potable,
so-
don't drink
Right,
it.
Yeah,
exactly.
and so with recycled water, the universal color is purple.
Got it.
Just like
Thank
the
you.
purple signs that you see around and the purple water meters, that all signifies as the reclaimed water.
Got it.
Other questions, comments?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
No,
go
no, I've already had a
No,
couple.
I have a question with the city of Andrew, maybe. Has the city conducted like any analysis or surveys around, the amount of non-functional turf in the city has, AB, whatever, 1572 considerations been factored into like the CIP budget?
Yes and no. We haven't actually responded to the bill, but we have programs in place already. For instance, this campus has about an acre of turf kind of around the perimeter. We're already working with West Basin to claim our $4 per square foot rebate, and they are providing design services for us for landscape design. So that's in process right now as we speak. We have another project on Manhattan Beach Boulevard. We're removing all the turf in the medians there and replacing with, I think it's California natives. I get a little confused about the various terms of drought tolerant, California natives, all those, but you guys are going to educate me when our sustainability native planting policy comes forward. So yeah, we are doing those things now. And almost all of our projects that involve landscaping are very much mindful of the restrictions on watering and medians and public spaces like that. So yeah, we are taking up a lot of that. But to answer your question, we haven't really gone to the response to the bill, Senate bill yet, waiting kind of for the summer to review what those requirements are going to be. And then Cal Water is going to have their time where they're the service provider for most of the city. So they're going to inform us of how they're going to hold us accountable as a customer. So yeah, we need to wait for those things before we can get too far.
And I'll just say, of course, that, like I said before, City of Redondo Beach, you guys have been ahead of the game, very proactive about being water resilient.
Good, thank you. Yes.
Many, many years ago, I sat on a Torrance commission, and at that time, the West Basin, I believe it was West Basin, that took us on a sort of like a driving tour from Northern California to Southern California to show us all these different features and, the aqueduct system and many reservoirs along the way. And there was so much value added in gaining that education, seeing that we are the Public Works and Sustainability Commission. Will there ever be an opportunity like that to get us like sort of like a hands-on or like maybe a boots on the ground field trip?
Yes, there are. And if you were with the city of Torrance, you said?
Many years ago.
That was probably with the city of Torrance because they are their own member agency with Metropolitan Water District.
It might have been
So they,
MWD.
as a member agency, had opportunity for those tours.
Got it.
West Basin are two directors who serve on the Metropolitan Water District's board. So that would be Director Gloria Gray and Director Desi Alvarez. They will have tours available at their fingertips. But unfortunately, due to budget cuts with MWD, the amount of field trips that are offered have been drastically reduced. But since you've expressed interest, what I can make sure is that our administrative staff knows that the commissioners from Public Works and Sustainability are interested. So I'll put you all on the list, and when the next tour opportunity comes up, you'll be on that list and they'll reach out to you to see if you're still interested or not.
Yeah, that would be great. Like I said, there was
Definitely.
tremendous value added.
It is.
Yeah.
And the Metropolitan Water District is one that offers those tours in partnership with the member agencies because, again, they own the Colorado River Aqueduct, so that the more people they can get out there to understand the water transportation system and the pumping stations, as well as going up to Northern California with the state water project, because that's our supplement water supply. So you can go all the way up to Lake Oroville and follow the water back
Yeah.
to the Central Valley. Yeah, that's another opportunity.
Yeah, it was a
We'll
great-
see what becomes available, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, it was like a 2-day bus tour. It was
Yeah.
really fascinating.
Yeah, it changes your whole perspective on the water
Absolutely.
complexity and the whole magnitude of the human engineering that's involved to get water here.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rob, I think you had a question.
Hello, yeah, great presentation. I do have a question. If you could just touch base a little bit on the imported water use. And also wanted to ask you, you gave us 38% reduction in imported water use from 1995 to 2023. What percentage of change, let's say in the last 5 years, or guesstimate, and what are some areas of improvement that you feel that we could, touch down on?
Well, again, I think that's why this state regulation is so beneficial, because our individual differences have added up, and I think that we're stretched to the max as residents go as being water efficient. So now it's the other property owners, the commercial, industrial, and institutional properties that can be held accountable, because there's still water that can be squeezed out. Why use drinking water on irrigating decorative turf when we need to use that drinking water at home and at our local businesses for our operation needs? So that's one thing. I think the overall trend in the decrease in water use over time has been a lot due to education. Because of the last long-term drought, people have become in the habit to conserve water. And fortunately, even though we're currently out of the drought, people are still practicing water-wise behaviors. Keep doing that. That's all that we can do. The other change that has happened is improvements in technology for our appliances at home and at businesses. So with each year, the devices, whether it's flush toilets, whether it's kitchen, industrial kitchen faucets, they become more efficient with their aeration, from dishwashers, both in restaurants to at home. The technology is improving where we can still get a very strong water flow with a less amount of water. So that's going to continue to make a difference. And then home audit systems where people can actually understand if there is a leak in their home. I think that many people know that there's little meters that you can put on your pipes right now that connect to your phone or your smartphone. You actually can see that, oh, the water's still running, but I'm not even home and no water appliance is on. So that direct feedback using technology is making a difference. People love that, digital feedback in real time. So that's making a difference. As far as imported water, we basically call water that's being transported from outside of the region imported, because it's being imported locally. So our one local water supply that has been reliable historically has been the groundwater below our feet. And that's being extracted or pumped from the West Coast groundwater basin. And over time, it was so overtaxed that saltwater San Juan Bay began encroaching. And that's why West Basin Municipal Water District was formed by the vote of the people, because they realized an entity needed to be created to help manage the water resources here in the South Bay cities. So one reason that West Basin was formed was to help protect the groundwater supply locally and secure another reliable water supply. And that other reliable water supply back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, stretching the 80s, was the Colorado River. And that's not enough. So the Metropolitan Water District, who supplies the water here to Southern California, has an additional contract with the state of California through the State Water Project. So they're the one that supplies the two water sources, both imported waters from very distant, blended together, and then pump it through their pipeline systems to us. And then depending on your water retailer, like California Water Service, they may have their own pumps locally that's pumping out groundwater to add to that blended imported water supply. And that's our water source here Southern California. A nice blend. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yep.
Yes, I have one. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With the city mandates increasing all of our different cities' housing elements, like by the thousands a year, how is that going to affect the amount of potable water that's going to be for residential use?
Again, I think that it's a matter for us all to continue practicing water-wise behaviors. It is going to come down to that limited water supply where if we stretch the technologies to its maximum, I think there will always be innovators, that's for sure. So the technology will continue to get better. But otherwise, policies like this on the state and regional level will continue to really press those of us that can change our water behaviors even more. That's what it will come down to, is the regulations. But how it will actually fall into place? Is it going to be a hard changing the tiers of the water prices by tier? Or is it going to be fining individuals or properties? It's really going to depend on how stretched our water supply is.
Right. Is there anything in the works with the state of California as far as new dams are concerned?
No, as far as new dams go, the state is busy tearing them down right now because of the ecological impacts they have had on many of those water bodies. If anything here, I think the worst case scenario is that our water supply becomes so limited, we're maximizing, and we can continue to maximize groundwater as a resource, both pumping more water into the ground because there's lots of space down there for a storage bank. So that's one alternative that we can turn to and start investigating further, is the groundwater as a resource. We may become too taxed in trying to import more water because the Colorado River is being shared by 7 states and 2 countries, right? So that's maxed out. So water recycling is going to be pursued even more. Some of you may be aware of our partner agencies like the Metropolitan Water District and the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. They have their own wastewater treatment plant in Carson, and they have a pilot demonstration site right now where they are proving, just like us, we've been doing it for years, West Pace Municipal Water District, making advanced treated disinfected water that exceeds drinking quality standards. But their vision, and they just received $99 million from the state of California. No, actually not the state, but from the federal government to ultimately pump that highly purified recycled water up to the San Gabriel foothills, spreading grounds, to help recharge the groundwater over there. And the idea is we may be drinking that water directly from our drinking water supply because it's highly purified recycled water, disinfected. So that's the final, or one of the final frontiers of drinking recycled water. And the other alternative too is, if it comes to that, is maximizing last water resources that is right in our backyard, which is the Pacific Ocean.
Desalination.
So desalination could be another route if the technology costs become economically feasible. Right now, importing water over hundreds of miles is less expensive than making desalinated water. But if that imported water becomes less available, well, then the cost of that, transporting that water will become high, and then the cost of making desalinated water may be low compared to that. But again, for right now, the most feasible is maximizing recycled water and groundwater. Sorry for that long explanation.
No worries.
So you laid out the timelines for compliance and enforcement in your wonderful presentation. I just have a quick question. Do you have any insight into if and when the replacement rebates will sunset or expire?
No.
No?
Unfortunately not. MWD is one, their budget I think is been approved for the next 2 years, so that's good. But how they're going to divvy that up amongst all the different member agencies, we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, well, thank you very much for a very
Sure thing.
informative
Thank you.
presentation. I suppose what is in order now is to, a motion to receive and file the presentation, right?
Right after you ask about public comment, that would be very appropriate.
Any public comment on the presentation? Any comment on the presentation?
There are no e-comments, and we have no one on Zoom that would like to speak, so.
Okay, well then, can we get a motion to receive and file the presentation?
I'll make a motion to receive and file it.
Narada makes the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Funabashi seconds.
We'll just do a roll call vote. Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Aye.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Aye.
Commissioner Beely?
All right.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye. Okay. I guess now, item J2, I guess in light of this presentation, we want to bring forward the discussion of possible action on native plant and pollinators guidance policy, which the subcommittee is now working on, I believe. So-
Sorry about that. Sorry.
So I guess the question is, after having seen this, are there things that we feel need to be added to the policy or should be considered in the policy that we haven't yet seen? So anybody have any thoughts about things that definitely ought to go into the?
I'm going to just bring this up as a question to staff. We see right next door in front of City Hall, what was originally a drought-tolerant garden has been dug up, for lack of a better term. And what's the timeline in getting that back? And what really ultimately is the plan? Is it still to return it back to a demonstration garden that our very own citizens could come and get ideas about plants? I know there was another demonstration garden, if you will, up at Wilderness Park that I haven't been up to in a number of years. But the city at one time had two different presentation type gardens that were installed probably 15, 20 years ago. So what's the status on what's going on here at City Hall?
Great question. It's a project that has been designed and reviewed by the council. There's some hardscape flat work that's going in, which will be installed by our city crews. We're kind of looking for a window to do that, and frankly, we're out of budget for this year, so we're waiting till July 1st to go after that a little more aggressively. And then the planting has been designed by a combination of professionals who are working with our mayor, who has a background in this for plant selection and layout and that kind of thing. So those choices, I think, are being made or have been made and will be installed after we get the hardscape and the irrigation in. Preliminary work was to get rid of all the old raised fountains that were there and the concrete pathway, the broken concrete pathway, and we did some improvements to the sewer lines that run underneath and just preparing the space for the next phase. So we're just kind of in waiting mode right now.
But maybe towards the end of summer
Yeah, I
or
think-
after July 1st,
Yeah.
it may ramp up from there, but, okay, thank you.
Yep. By the way, there is another demonstration project being considered. The South Bay Parkland Conservancy has approached the city about planting what we call the Wiley Sump, which is a flood control basin up off Artesia Boulevard, kind of across from Miracosta High School. And so we're talking with them about how we could do that. There's safety issues there with both the terrain and the critters that live in that sump.
Oh, yeah.
And
One side of that is Manhattan Beach, right?
no, it's all south of the Artesia, so that all belongs to the city of Redondo Beach.
Yes, but I mean, the other side of the street is Manhattan Beach.
correct. Yeah,
and
yeah,
They
yes.
drain into that as well.
You're correct. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head where they drain. I know there's a big pipe that crosses
And it broke
Artesia in
once
front of the high
and-
school, and it broke in my second year here, yeah. And I got my backside in the newspaper for that one, so that was my memory from that event.
So I
Other
think-
questions, thoughts on, or anything we thought, after having heard the excellent presentation, that we want to make sure the subcommittee considers?
I can also share, the city we had an assignment several years ago, right, just before COVID, to begin to work on master plans for medians on our arterials, to come up with programming, if you will, or landscape designs for those when we eventually got to do projects. So we have looked at, Catalina is the only one we've looked at so far. We haven't presented it to the council yet. It was one of the first casualties of public meeting closures and not knowing, believe it or not that long ago, none of us knew how to use Zoom and present things. And so we just kind of set that down, waiting for further direction from council. So we have that in our pocket. We are moving away from turf. We have a lot of turf on the median on Catalina and some of our others. So we are moving that way. That is just a common sense commitment, and it might even been, I believe there were some temporary laws about cities watering medians during the drought. I don't know if they've been made permanent. Maybe Daryl, you know, they're not permanent, or you don't know.
They were actually repealed when the drought ended.
Okay, thank you. So we're not under law to do that, but it certainly makes sense, and it's very much in the spirit of what we're trying to do here in the city. So yeah, that's kind of our internal policy, if you will, for our design, is to remove turf where we find it.
Other comments or things that we wish to pass on to the subcommittee? I'm not particularly aware of anything myself. I'm looking forward to seeing the actual document that's been proposed. When do we expect that to be?
Well, we are working on it.
Right.
And we're going to meet with some more experts, and we're going to collaborate with some more departments and get a little bit
Okay.
more input. And we are going to then bring it back. So I believe that we are going to make a motion to bring it back. And I'm not sure when. We don't have a timeline yet.
Do we need a motion to do that, or you?
No,
I mean,
no,
you're planning to bring it back, and when you're ready to bring it back, we didn't give it a deadline. I mean, we're waiting for the subcommittee to report back to us, and then we would discuss it and potentially approve it or suggest amendments, as I understand it. Is that?
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, just one bit of data that you may want to be considered by the subcommittee. We have been without a fully staffed parks manager for the last probably 12 months. And we are in the process of recruiting and going through that now. We have some very good candidates, and encouraging if we'll be able to land one of them. But I would certainly love for that person, if they have experience from wherever they're coming from, to maybe speak into this as well. So we'll try and tee that up for you as well once we get that person in place, if they have something to add.
All right. So we're looking then at this coming back to the full commission, what, in a couple of months, probably? Is that?
It's really up to the subcommittee. We're following their lead on this.
We're close. I mean, we have our recommendations laid out. I think we're going to be seeking a bit more insight from some city experts.
Okay.
And then I believe are we bringing it back before we bring it to the planning commission? Because
Yes.
part of what we have to do is present this to the planning commission as well.
Yes.
And after we present it to the planning commission. So you bring it to us, we discuss it,
Yes.
possibly amend it.
That's right.
Hopefully, we just say it's wonderful, it's great, and then approve it, and it goes to the planning commission, as I understand
Yeah,
it.
there'll be portions within the planning commission, within the document that don't really apply to the planning commission. So you're really just testing those things that the planning commission might have jurisdiction over.
Oh, okay.
And the rest of it will be guidance for public works,
Okay.
kind of internal policy, city
Okay.
policy, yeah.
But again, we're expecting to have this come back to the full commission,
Correct.
and when? Just give a sense. Couple of months?
We'll see a couple months right now. Yeah.
My hunch would be have a couple visits here, maybe an initial meeting here, so that you're all in agreement on what goes to the planning commission. You'll get a response from them that'll probably get worked back, may require some edits. And then again, you'd probably want to revisit those edits here before pushing a recommendation forward for either staff to follow or council to look at, for instance, something like that.
Okay?
I think a month or two is sufficient. Being 2 months is more than adequate.
Whatever. Okay, so is there any, do we need any, I mean, that was sort of a status report, and do we need any motions on this? I don't think we do.
Motion.
Okay.
We don't need a motion.
Now, I guess we'll go to item J3, which is a discussion regarding the fiscal year.
So, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just going to interject. Just for the record, there's no one on Zoom, so I don't believe anyone here from West Basin would like to speak on the item, but we don't have any public comment either, and no e-comments.
Okay.
So.
All right, so item J3, discussion regarding the fiscal year 2024-25 proposed budget. Now, this
Yeah,
is the
thank you.
budget that's already been presented to the city council, right?
Correct. That's correct,
And so
yeah.
what we're looking for here is whether there is any suggestions or input that we have to the budget?
That's right. The city council received the budget on May 16th, according to the city charter. It was available online, and then it was presented to the council on May 21st, the first council meeting after May 16th. In an introductory way, the council has set the date of June 4th to open the public hearing to discuss the budget, and they plan to discuss it over 3 consecutive meetings, June 4th, 11th, and 18th. June 4th will focus on the operational aspects of the budget. June 11th is meant to focus on the CIP portion of the budget. And then June 18th, there's some hearings, and then hopefully the night of adoption, budget adoption. The budget's available online for the public to view. It's been presented. We're in the process of writing things we call budget response reports, or BRRs, which are targeted responses to questions that various council members have. And so we are adding to the information that will go into their deliberations and their conversation. What we're going to do tonight is Jesse Reyes, who's our CIP program manager, will be presenting on both the operational side and the CIP side, kind of high-level view. I don't know all of what's in his slides, so I won't try and guess, but just to whet the appetite for conversation. And I think the council is really looking for a number of the commissions, not all of them, but a number of them, including this one, to just provide any feedback on the proposed budget as they incorporate information into their deliberation process. So the part of this will be if there's something you want to communicate to the council, and then the second part will be how would you like to do that? There's a couple of options that we've thought of, and maybe there are others. But yeah, so I'll let Jesse go ahead, and we can talk some more.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair. Brief overview, if you guys tuned into the Tuesday meeting, these are slides directly from the city manager's presentation. Just want to recap, just in case you didn't see it, and just to remind those who did see it. So the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget, if you guys have seen, there's a new format. It's a new software that we're utilizing this year, ClearGov. There was a little hiccups when it officially got launched, but we've cleared those up. They're much more succinct now. We're much more readable and digestible for the public. On there, if you go on the digital side, you'll see the city manager's message. It's under transmittal letter. This is really kind of his high level, where you'll see the decision packages. You'll see kind of the message for the year that sets the stage for the budget discussions. Core budget, for those of you who haven't been around longer, this is basically the starting point of the budget. It's our personnel, it's the maintenance and operations, it's ISF, capital outlay, any debt obligations, really kind of the fiduciary responsibilities of the city. Decision packages, those are modifications to the core budget. There's 63 recommended decision packages this year citywide. That is down from the last couple of years. So we're trending in the right direction, we think. And again, Andy mentioned the budget response reports. These are determined by the city council questions and supplemental information that helps them through their discussions and deliberations on the budget. The themes, as the city manager mentioned on the 21st, these are kind of the budget themes for the year. There's been new MOUs that for the labor, a few of the labor unions, miscellaneous labor unions. So absorbing those new employee compensation benefit costs, making mandatory adjustments to the core M&O expenses. There's obviously, is no surprise to anyone, there's been increased costs across the board and everything. So there is some core adjustments to make sure we can pay for those expenses. The continuing successful pilot programs, this is really concentrated on the public safety side. If you guys are tuned into some of those conversations, the police department obviously has like a drone pilot project. The fire is working on various projects as well. So that's continuing those kind of successful pilot programs. Incorporating essential technology cost. As we all go more digital, there's increased costs. So that's absorbing these increased costs that are basically the future of how we're going to operate. And covering anticipated claims, insurance, and the CalPERS unaccrued liability payments. That was something that the city had set aside. So that's one theme for next year as well. Here's a high overview on the general fund budget summary. You'll see that the estimated beginning fund balance, $3.7 million. You have the core revenues, core expenditures. There's the unfunded accrued liability payment that is due to CalPERS this year that the city had set aside. When you take into account all those expenses with ongoing and one-time decision packages, we have a total estimated year-end fund balance of $83,000, which is a lot lower than previous years. This is basically the starting point of what if there's any changes to general fund obligations, that is the fund balance left after expenditures and revenues. On the capital side, 24-25, we have appropriations of estimated $82.7 million for 125 projects. This includes $65.4 million of carryover funding for 125 previously approved projects and $19.1 million of new appropriations and a net of $17.3 million in those appropriations. Some projects are being deauthorized, which is why you see a difference between new appropriations and the net. So the net of the new appropriations is $17.3 million and 13 new projects added to the CIP this year, mostly Measure M funded projects. At the bottom, you'll see a recap of this current fiscal year. We anticipate spending $21.2 million in CIP funds, which is a pretty robust expenditure for CIP. 25 projects completed, another 20-ish projects designed or awarded. So that's just kind of a recap of what's been accomplished and what is going to be accomplished in the current fiscal year. And here we have, what I did is I pulled out decision packages that relate to public works. So you'll see, I won't read through all of them, but we have some kind of standard decision packages, public works department fee increases. Every year we look at our fees, see areas that haven't been adjusted for a while, adjust for those fees. So you'll see a fee adjustment for one of our parcel map fees. A solid waste admin fee increase. We haven't increased this fee in probably over a decade. With all the new regulations on the solid waste side, this really kind of helps try to capture some of those increased costs in reporting. Electrification of landscape maintenance equipment. As you might be aware, the council approved the use of the electrical leaf blowers, there we go. I was forgetting the word. So this is kind of a one-time seed money to be able to purchase those leaf blowers and that equipment necessary. We're going after grant funding for those as well, but we'll need some additional local match funding to supplement that. Energy, one of the themes you'll see is energy cost increases. We also have gas cost increases. We have on the next page, we have water cost increases. So utilities across the board have increased dramatically, all at different levels. The budgets have not. So you see an increase in those core budgets to address those issues. Again, I don't want to read through all of them, but a lot of them have to do with contracts, professional services, have to do with increased costs across the board and budgets that haven't been adjusted in 5-10 years. So these decision packages really address those areas and allow for the department to continue to accomplish the task and the charge that the council has given. So with that, again, I won't, if you guys have any questions, we can go through them one by one, or I can leave them up. And this is kind of the point where you have the chance to provide the input, any recommendations to the city council. And I think we have different methods or thoughts on how that can come from the commission if you all make a motion to provide comments.
Well, how would we provide comments? What's your suggestion of how we would do this?
Well, there's a number of ways that we thought of. One is certainly as individuals, any of you are welcome to email, show up at the meeting, provide an e-comment, something like that during one or more of the hearings. If there is this is your last meeting, we believe, before they will decide on the budget. So if you wanted to give us some bullet points, we have a new communication tool or option where our liaison, Lauren, writes a memo of a notable activity. Each of the commissions are doing this now to the city manager, or does it go to the city council?
It'll go to both the city manager and council.
Okay, so just a way to update and inform the council about activities that are happening within the commissions. So if you had some bullet points like, fewer projects or more projects, or
If we think that this makes sense as it is, we would say that, or?
Yep, you could say that too. So that would be another way to do it. A third way to do it is, you could draft a memo tonight in real time from the dais and try and get that agreed upon before a reasonable hour. And, you could make a motion to send that self-drafted type of document as well. So those are the three ways that we thought of, but perhaps there are others.
If I may just to ask a question of staff, it's great to know the different packages that have been put together and the specific project, but there's, and obviously there's always a necessity to these individual projects. How would you feel though about that bigger wish list? I mean, what's your sentiments, just as an opinion, of other projects that really could be done, should be done, but won't get done because of funding? Is there any, red flags or anything that we need to be aware of as a commission and as citizens of Redondo that just kind of assure us that the budget is really where it needs to be, right, with the best expectations with the way the economy is now? So. Right.
Yeah, with regard to projects, our staff is kind of at capacity. We've been running at 12 cylinders for about 3 or 4 years now. And so even if you threw a bunch of money at us, we couldn't get to stuff unless we really modify the way we do business, which would turn us into a very different kind of organization, which would take time to work out. So I just don't think with the current staff levels in the engineering department, public works department, we could do much more in the way of project. Now we could reprioritize certain types of projects. I don't think we're missing the mark. I mean, the things that the residents mostly talk about are, no potholes, so we do a lot of street jobs. Mm-hmm. We'd love to be able to support infrastructure in areas that are revenue generating, like the harbor area. If there are things that we can do to kind of kickstart revenue generation in the harbor. One project that we're trying to get done is a seismic repair project for the pier parking structure, where the Fun Factory used to be while it's vacant. So we can get that completed and that space can become leasable again. So that's kind of on top of our one of our capital projects priority list in the pier. We are, the Galleria area is an important redevelopment, so it brings in revenue. We don't have a lot of, the city doesn't have a lot of leverage to move that forward faster. There are, a lot of factors there, but we do target projects in that area that we can enhance the redevelopment there and make that a more attractive piece of property for either residents, for the new apartments that are going in, or other businesses. There's a lot of money available right now in grants for active transportation, mobility, pedestrians, bikes, low-speed travel network, local travel networks. So we are trying to capitalize on that where we can, and working on those kinds of projects as well. One of the biggest needs we have, frankly, is our buildings that house city staff, police and fire. There will be a conversation this year, we believe, on the 11th about general obligation bonds, which is kind of a new concept for the city, but it seems to be there's enough conversation now that it seems like a good time to start the conversation. So we are bringing an item on the 11th. We've had a high-level needs assessment done, for both kind of a gut and rebuild, or gut and replace, refurbish, to a total rebuild model. So, and those are in the hundreds of millions of dollars kind of range. So that's a big new thing that the city's considering. Talking to the city manager, I said, if we ever get this money, we're going to have to hire somebody to run that program, because if you try and get our current staff to run that program, all these other things that are important are just going to stop. And so it's really money to kind of hire a whole nother staff to come in and work on that kind of a program. So those are big jobs. They're a long time in coming, but certainly for the first time in a long time, the city is willing to talk about. So that's encouraging, because I think, the fire stations, the debate about them has been pretty robust over the last, year or two with the Citygate study. The jail, the police station, those are crucial, but they're old buildings. I mean, this is all 1950 something or other. Campus, where our staff works, it's crowded. It's not Class A commercial space at all. It's Class B or less in some places. So, and we for morale's sake, for productivity's sake, for reorienting the space to the new ways that we do business that we didn't do in 1956 or whenever it was that these were built, would all be great improvements. So I think that is a great conversation, and we're approaching it the right way in terms of a bonding issue versus trying to take it from our annual budget. So I think we're on the right track. The city manager has made it very clear that this wasn't a year for extras and asks and new personnel. We had a few decision packages from Public Works that were, dead on arrival because they were talking about new personnel. A third electrician, for instance. We have two. One of them spends a lot of time in the harbor with trying to get Wi-Fi up and the salt air corrosion issues and all that. And so we were trying to restore a position that had been around but eliminated in 2010 or 11. But it just wasn't the year for that. So, I think those are the kind of things we'd like to see, have room in the budget to do. And when we can rebuild some revenue through TOT, our transit occupancy tax, through new hotels and these kind of places coming online, we might be able to consider things like that in the future. But I didn't, as I went through it, there were some questions we had just because of the new format. It was a little bit, where we used to find things isn't in the same place. And so we were trying to figure out the new format. We have had a sea change or a sheriff change or something with our finance director. The way we used to do things is a little bit different than the way that we're going to be doing things. And so we're all trying to keep up with those changes, building the airplane while we're flying, as it were. And so that is challenging. So I think we've captured it pretty well. I'll let Jesse opine on this. He's been working with budgets in Public Works and the police department in his career here.
No, I think you've captured it pretty well. On the CIP side, I'd say that, as we sit down earlier in the year, and we're developing next year's plan. Obviously, we have the 5-year plan. Revenues really dictate what we can fund the following year. We really take a deep look and have those conversations both internally with the Public Works, reach out to the various other departments who might have some CIPs in the works as well, get those needs down, and then really sit down and look at our funding sources, what's potentially able to be funded, and what are priorities, right? So that's really what we release to the council for consideration. So I think we do a pretty good job of capturing the needs. And as Andy said, we're 125 projects, right? We got that down from like 142 last year. We've asked the council to hopefully not add too many this year, but we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, everyone's pretty much at capacity. We're working, but we keep a good eye on what's in design, what needs to be funded, what are priorities. We have the low-hanging fruit that I'd like to call, which a lot of them are handled by our maintenance CIPs, which are handled by our operations side, right? So those are ones that we try to get done, see some accomplishments, so that the public really sees, right? In the past, those have been simple improvements to the dog park, right? The new dog runs, fixing the pier lights, right? Really stuff that can get moved on much quicker, doesn't require a whole design process, and really shows that we're moving on things that the public really wants to see.
Yeah, and we've just one more thought here. We've closed out some long-term projects. The transit center has been occupying somebody's time here for almost 15 years. It's nice to have that one in the rearview mirror. We had a lane intersection widening project at Torrance and BCH. It's completed a couple years ago, but that was also a 10-year project. And those things, they don't take a lot of time, but they take some mental space and some energy or something that reduces what we're able to do. So knocking some of those out, the dredging project, wrapping that one up right now, the Harbor Docks project we got done this year, all just good accomplishments to knock off so we can start getting to some of the fresh ideas and fresh projects that are out there. So we have some more of those, not a lot more, but we do have some more that we need to get done this year, and we want to keep those as priorities. So as Jesse said, the council can't quite help themselves sometimes with trying to get projects done. Understandably, that's what they're elected to do. We have plenty of good priorities right now, and hopefully we'll stay around that 125 number and even be able to reduce it in a couple of years to come.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so you're looking for recommendations on what was presented to us?
Just anything that you would like to present to the council as a group. Jesse mentioned the presentation the other night. Mike gave a nice overview. There'll be more in the future that you may want to participate in online or in person. But this is the night when you're together as a group and can move by motion to communicate the wishes of the commission as a group rather than as commissioners and individuals.
That just made me think of a question, and forgive me, I just have never done the math, but of all the different CIP projects, what do you guesstimate the percentages of public works projects related to that come through the Public Works Department? It's got to be fairly significant.
I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
Well, if you look at the overall budget in any given year, what's the percentage of dollars that are spent on projects that are
on CIP projects?
Yeah.
Well,
In the CIP budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not following the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we have, I think you're talking about, we have the general fund, but then we have all these other designated funds. You're talking about all of that stuff.
Yeah, not the city's
collectively.
overall budget, but within the CIP.
Yeah, so what was it, 69 or 70? I forget what your millions number was.
Yeah.
So 65 carryover and 20 million. So, we're roughly carrying 20 million or so. And then if you go down a couple slides to here, core revenues, the turnover there is about 113 million. So some of that includes the public works churn as well, or the capital improvement churn as well. But yeah, we typically have a huge share of the common funds, the most available funds.
Well, and I'll say, I've always appreciated how you've gone to outside funding sources, whether it's Measure M, and how that money comes from outside our city to get this work done too.
And there's a couple categories there. I mean, there's very little money we spend on CIP projects that is internally funded, like general fund funded. Most of it is either discretionary or competitive grants or kind of statutory allocations. Those are the categories we work with. And then, we do love to, like, for instance, right now we're chasing or planning to chase a grant to redo the shooting range. And federal government's indicated that there is a program, the local military base here, the Space Force base wants to be in partnership with us. It's about a $17 million number right now for that whole facility. We'd have to rebuild the parks, yards, buildings as well, so all that's combined. And the budget requires, or the grant requires the applicant, which would be us, to be a 30% partner, which is still $5 million and money we don't really have. So we're pressing in on that a little bit. There is a caveat that the federal government can fund the entire thing if there's a matter of national security involved. So given the desert of shooting ranges in the South Bay and the various federal agencies that rely on them for their qualifications, that case might be able to be made. And we have the support of the outgoing commandant at the LA Air Force Base, and the new guy I think it's June is the turnover, and he's been involved already in the conversation. So that's the kind of thing we'd love to be able to do, is capture that outside money and build something with somebody else's money that's going to benefit the residents here.
Yeah, and out of this year's allocation, almost half is grant funds that we're allocating, or recommending for appropriation.
And you mean grant funds, you mean like competitive grant funds?
Correct, Measure M.
So we have a local return from Measure M, and then there's competitive money that's available as well. So you're talking about the competitive piece of it, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Other comments, questions, thoughts? I don't myself have any particular, I think the budget as presented makes sense and support what's being proposed, but I don't know that I'm in a position to pick it apart and say, no, you should do this or that or that sort of thing. It seems to me that I don't know how.
I feel the same way. I was just asking those questions to kind of formulate on the dais here, a bit of support and confirmation of the work that's been done, as I've observed staff these years and the way they approach the budget and the way they procure funds from different sources and whatnot. And it's almost a keep up the good work, but had to ask because we know the economy is changing as we speak. Mm-hmm. So much has happened in the last 4 years that I have to ask, is there, what are the red flags? Is there really anything going on that we need to get out and talk about?
We probably have half a dozen of our decision packages have to do with responding to inflation. The water, gas, electric. Those three, our materials budget is like, if you've been to Home Depot lately, you've seen what a sheet of plywood has changed in cost in the last 5 years.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy, yeah.
Other questions or thoughts?
Is it public facility improvements under the purview of Public Works?
At some level, yes. If we were implementing a project on behalf of the city, yes. The bonding thing that we're talking about would be a different category. We would need a program management company to keep track of the bonds, the revenues. Those bonds have fuses on them. You've got to spend the money by such and such a time. So there's a lot of scheduling. There's a lot of community outreach about, okay, we're going to rebuild City Hall. Now what is it supposed to look like, and how are we, what's that process going to be? So yeah, we would be engaged in it. We would, act on behalf of the city along with the city manager's office and others, the community development department, to inform that process and be engaged. We wouldn't probably take quite as hands-on a role as we do for a street rehab project or something like that.
It looks like there's a lot of projects there. There's a large line item earmarked for like 2027, 28 for a bunch of public facility improvement projects.
We're talking about the CIP?
You're looking at the CIP book, yeah.
Then that project is probably, there's a grant, Measure R funded, the Transit Operations Center. So that is a
Yeah.
$30 million.
2 million, yeah, I saw that. 17.
Correct.
Oh, right. So
That's what you're seeing there.
That includes converting our maintenance bus facility, which is right up next to the new transit center. It's an old building. It used to be a GT&E building when that was all one campus up there. And the state is requiring our bus fleet to go electric. I think it's by 2028. So grant funds were obtained, not by us, but by the transit division from Metro to rebuild that site with bus charging and bus maintenance geared towards electric buses and not diesel buses or CNG buses. So yeah, that's a big change. And we're at the very front end of that because it wasn't initiated from Public Works. And the transit director who got the grant has moved on to a different job. We're kind of starting over, but it's projected money coming in. We don't even have the funding agreement yet. So we've got a lot of work to do there, but that'll be one that we will likely handle in-house in our department in combination with the Community Services Department who oversees the transit division.
Other thoughts, comments? So a motion that says we support the budget as presented.
Yeah, for instance, you could make a motion to communicate via our liaison memo that you're in support of the budget, you find it reasonable or whatever. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Okay, well, does
Something like that would.
Recommendations or suggestions.
I'm sorry?
With no recommendations or suggestions. Right?
I mean, that's entirely up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, my thought was as it was presented, it makes sense. And that, it would be, I guess, helpful for the council to hear that, right? That's the thought?
I'm sure they would love, I know the city manager would love that. Maybe the council would.
Well, anyone care to make the motion?
I have a question.
Cindy, you have a question?
I do, but I don't know if it makes sense. Is there, let me give my thoughts in a different time. Was there any way out of the budget they could find some money to allocate to encourage businesses to do business in Redondo Beach, which would increase the TOT? What incentives do they have?
Yeah, that's a great question for another department director. I'm not very schooled in that, but our waterfront and economic development department, Greg Kapovich, that's kind of his line of work. I know that we've developed a program, a business concierge program to make it easy for new businesses to kind of get through the hoops of either building out a space or, getting a business license established, that kind of thing. I'm not sure what other things they have there, but that would be a great question for Greg. And we could certainly pass along that, could be included in your comments or something that you would support that.
And there's been programs in the past, the storefront improvement program that on Artesia, it's at the waterfront now as well, where they offer some grant money from the city to upgrade their facades as a way to try to encourage more business for those businesses.
Up on Artesia Boulevard, right?
Correct. They started in Artesia, they moved it to the waterfront now as well.
Yeah, in the Artesia, the ACAP program, which was a planning effort to change some of the zoning requirements along Artesia Boulevard to reduce the amount of parking that's needed, to increase the amount of FAR, floor area ratio, to allow more development on a given parcel. There are a number of things that are kind of in the works, longer term perhaps, programs to improve that. One issue that I do not know a little bit about from hearing Mike Witzansky shared is that our TOT revenue from the 3 hotels up on Marine climbed as those facilities opened and got fully occupied, and then COVID hit. And part of their agreement with the city was that they had a kind of a reserve fund before they started paying the TOT. They would kind of keep a reserve for crises, and they had a crisis, and so they have paid themselves for the last couple of years, if you will, layman's terms here, but paid themselves from that fund and have been rebuilding it. And then once they reach a certain threshold, then the money starts coming back to the city. So that's projected to happen about halfway through 24, 25. And so we anticipate a little bump in TOT for half a year's worth, and then fully again next year. So that's some good news with regard to the TOT, and we're still kind of in COVID recovery in that sense for those hotels.
So where are we as far as a motion? Do we want to?
What would you like to say? What would you like it to say?
Well, it seems to me that having heard the excellent presentation about the budget, we find it makes it useful and support it as it's being proposed.
So I'll make a motion that we thank staff for the wonderful presentation, and
Perhaps you could direct staff to, include in their memo to the city manager and the council, your support of the budget in its current form? Something like that?
Yeah.
that we appreciate the presentation and support the budget as presented, and encourage all citizens to review it themselves and add their personal input as they desire.
I second that motion.
All right, I guess we probably could take a roll call vote on that.
Sounds good. There's no one on Zoom. And there's no e-comments, just for the record.
Nobody in the public, so.
And no one here for the public. Commissioner Arata.
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj.
Aye.
Commissioner Funabashi.
Aye.
Commissioner Beely.
Aye.
Commissioner Sao.
Aye.
Chair Simpson.
Aye. Okay, well, that takes care of the items that were for discussion prior to action. And I guess now it's time for member items and referrals to staff. Do we have any such things?
We've closed out an agenda item, but I kind of want to revisit one thing real quick. I'm curious about the city's if you've done any kind of surveys or you've done any review of the city's need or expansion of the EV charging infrastructure. I saw it on the budget, it was like $85,000 a year. Does the city think that's adequate to grow that?
Yeah, the big challenge with that right now, Jesse's coming back. Jesse worked on this before. But one of our biggest challenges right now is that our city facilities. Oh, thank you. One of our biggest challenges right now is that one of our city facilities power panel, if you will, and I'm not an electrician either, but are maxed out for the uses that we have now. And so to install EV charging on city campuses requires a pretty big infrastructure investment involving Edison. And there is a long, long list with
But you
Edison for
already
these
do
companies.
have several charging stations.
We installed
Some on the
maybe
lot
half a
here.
dozen or
About 10.
About 10, yeah. We
Yeah.
have a couple here, two out in front of, 2 or 3 in front of the police
Two up on the
station.
North Ranch Library.
Yeah, right.
Performing Arts Center.
And then I think we have one.
at the Revere
in the
Village.
Revere
Now,
Village.
I also found it interesting that the ones in Redondo Beach, I think they're all charge point networks,
Correct.
and there's a charge to get charged.
Correct.
But now in Hermosa Beach, it's free, which is why I always go down to Hermosa Beach, plug in and charge for free.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it
and-
at home.
What I'll say is initially,
I'll go down there.
yeah, initially, and I think they were looking at potentially, I won't speak for them, but they were looking at potentially changing that. When the EV stations first came on, what, a dozen years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of cities were just trying to get them in, provide them. As those costs have now increased, it's more of a cost recovery than a revenue generating, right? So we do charge 30 cents per kilowatt hour in the city, which is kind of in line with other cities who charge, Torrance, or most of them might be one of the few that doesn't charge, right? I think most municipalities who own stations charge somewhat, some fee to utilize them. And going back to we're kind of looking at this in a two-way approach, one on the fleet side, which is internally, as we look to transform our fleet into electric vehicles, where are we going to charge that? Where's the capacity? So that's one area that we're looking for. And then at the other side is the public-facing one, which is the ones we have now. How do we increase that footprint? There's grants out there, obviously, that we've applied to. We've been waitlisted or denied for various reasons. We continue to look at those opportunities. I think we're still waiting for a response from the federal government infrastructure application, but it's a long process. Everyone's in line. And on the other end, there's the private side, and there's efforts to try to get businesses, shopping centers to add those stations to them as well, along with schools, parks, and multifamily new developments. I think they're required to be able to hook up charging stations as well. So it's kind of a full front attack on the EV stations.
Yeah. Other comments, questions, referrals to staff?
Yeah, the parkways and the turf down at the harbor, like around Port Royal Marina, where across from the Seaside Lagoon and those areas. I noticed that, I think it was last year as well, maybe they make some sprinkler timing adjustments, turn them on, or maybe they turn them off during the winter months, but, the turf is all, it almost seems terrible to bring it up after hearing about the water presentation, but yeah, all the turf down there is dead.
Yeah, I will look into that. There's something in telling me that because we master lease those properties out, they may be handled by
Got it.
property
Yeah.
manager for the master lease and not city staff. So I think that's the case there. Yeah.
Other referrals to staff and so on? I'm happy to report that I think last time I referred the staff that a water fountain wasn't working up in Andrews Park. Seems to be working now.
You must have used Access Redondo.
Well, that's the other interesting thing. I also put it in on Access Redondo, and I never got a response.
Okay.
However, I mean, I walk by there and get a drink out of it almost every morning with my dog, so somebody did something to it.
That works, yeah. Yeah, I think Gary told me he was waiting for a part and it came in, so that's usually the case, is stuff is hard to come by. I just wanted to, not really as a referral or just announcement, we are scheduling summer meetings on fourth Mondays, thank you. I'm thrown off because it's Wednesday. Fourth Monday is just our regular schedule through the summer. If we just wanted to throw that out there in the event that everybody was going to be going on vacation and on one of those, we'd like to be able to know that in advance so we can prepare for adjusting the meeting either with a special meeting if we can find an open day or just a cancellation of a meeting or
Or
something like
maybe
that.
one individual commissioner who's going to be out of town just doesn't make it.
As long as we have a quorum, that's great. We're just looking for nights when we may not have a quorum.
We'll
So if
send our
you could-
calendar to you,
If you
Lauren.
could consider
If we know
Yes,
that we just.
Consider the regularly scheduled fourth Mondays.
Fourth Monday, right?
Through the summer, and it's really all year, but the summer is kind of when people tend to travel the most. So we'd just like to throw that out there and ask you to notify us if you think you may not make one of those meetings.
Okay.
Wait, so our meetings are going to be Mondays?
I'm
Our
sorry?
meetings will be Mondays?
Yes, that's our regular schedule.
to Monday.
meeting schedule. It's Mondays.
Okay.
Fourth Monday, the
I
month.
don't remember it ever being Monday. I thought it was Thursday.
No, they're always Mondays.
This meeting really threw you off.
Oh, yeah, no, no, okay.
It threw me off too.
yeah.
You're right.
It was Thursdays for a while, and then
Okay. What commission am I?
Wait, yeah, right, exactly.
And then I am using the calendar option for your Outlook, so if, I've sent a meeting request for all of the Mondays. If you wanted to use that, I don't know, yeah, I'm sure you have plenty of other calendars that you utilize, but that is on there as well, through your Outlook in your email. And if you're having any issues with your email, please let me know and I can get you in touch with
Well,
city clerk.
I receive emails on it. I don't know if there's much else that I do with it, but anyway, I get the emails.
Yes,
I know for a fact that I won't be here for July's meeting.
okay, great, thank you. That helps.
Any other referrals, comments, concerns, anything
I'm
else?
not sure if I'll be here on July's either.
July
After the
22nd is what I see on the calendar. That's the fourth Monday.
July?
Probably, let me look at my calendar.
There's 5 Mondays in July.
It's definitely the fourth Monday.
Yep. So that'll be the 22nd.
Yep.
So you've laid it out for the whole year on the calendar?
It's always, yes, the fourth Monday, yeah.
Except when it's a special meeting on Wednesday.
Except for when, yes, except for today.
So,
Except for
anything
Memorial
else?
Day and Thanksgiving week sometimes is a problem.
Right.
Referrals to staff, anything else? Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Craig, what commission was I thinking I was on?
Meeting adjourned. I get to do this again.
We used to have, like, I don't know.